Hello there, welcome to this edition of Global Business Africa. In the next half hour, we'll go through all the key business news stories you need to know about from across the African continent. From Joburg to Cairo, Lagos to Nairobi, we've got you covered. Here's what's coming up. We'll be looking at the effect of falling oil prices on Ghana's infrastructure plans. Zimbabwe's tourism is getting a shot in the arm from a rather unlikely source. And we'll introduce you to a programmer who found her sweet spot in a pastry business. Let us begin in Ghana. The president there, John Dramani Mahama, says the country will struggle to build crucial infrastructure if global crude prices continue to fall. In an email to Reuters, he did acknowledge that the slide could hurt Ghana's economy further, as petroleum exports from its offshore Jubilee field are a significant source of government revenue. As in other economies which are heavily dependent on oil revenues, the near halving of benchmark crude prices since June has essentially undermined even conservative budget assumptions. Now, Ghana exports roughly 105,000 barrels of oil per day, and it had already started talks with the IMF in August on a bailout package. Mahama, whose post comes up for election in 2016, told his Economic Advisory Council that the fall in oil prices could imperil government development plans. The government had projected in its 2015 budget that it would earn about $1.3 billion in oil revenues, roughly 3.1% of GDP in 2015. Now, the global oil price slump is already benefiting motorists in Togo. The government reduced the price of oil, or rather petrol, on Tuesday by 8 cents from $1.13 per litre. Now, diesel will be retailing at just over $1 for every litre. But there's plenty of unhappiness about the fuel price in the country. Despite the reduction, many feel that these new prices are still too high for the average Togolese motorist, and they're demanding a further review. A barrel of oil is currently trading at an average of about $70 or so a barrel.
It's not enough for the average Togolese because times are different. Everyone is saying the same thing, and I'm witnessing it. Lomé is as hard as a rock. I believe that it's a good start, but more needs to be done.
The government is listening to the voices of the customers, and so it is attempting to lower the prices of petroleum products. We, however, regret the fact that this applies only to certain products. We hope that the government listens closely to the Customers Association and other customers in order to sensibly lower prices. I especially hope that they are being truthful with the announced prices and that all this information becomes available publicly.
Now, ahead of general elections in February next year, Nigerians are facing a fairly bleak, shall we say, festive season. Brent crude, the benchmark on which the price of Nigerian crude is set, has fallen by over 40% since June. As Sophie Eniko-Dengo reports, the 8% devaluation of the Naira has only made life for citizens that much harder.
Around this time of the year, impulse buying is at its peak in this downtown market in Abuja. But traders here are recording nearly half the turnover they've been seeing over the last 5 years. The few shoppers are tightly watching their spending.
The flow of cash is low compared to last year. Like every year, I want to go give gifts to my security, give gifts to the keeper of my house. But as of last year, I think the second week of December, I've done that. But look at this year, this is the Christmas week. And up to now, I'm just coming to the market to just give them something. I want to say that I am giving below what I gave last year.
Princess Ungoma is buying gifts for relatives and friends. Buying gifts around Christmas is a ritual to her, but she's had to make some drastic cuts on gift expenses this time.
I didn't even know people would be shopping as much as they're shopping today. When I got into the market, I was shocked. So when you talk about comparison, every Nigerian, like my father would always say, you push a Nigerian to the wall, he breaks it and walk across. Though it is hard, we are surviving.
Continuous drop in crude oil revenue and fast depreciating Naira has left most Nigerians struggling with dwindling disposable incomes this festive season. An early recovery in 2015 remains quite improbable, with most market factors seeming not to favor the Nigerian economy. At least 75% of Nigeria's economy is dependent on crude oil exports, but its demand has been on a steep fall, forcing the price per barrel down to $59. The Nigerian government responded to the drop by outlining a catalogue of austerity measures, but the measures are yet to cope with a drop in crude oil prices. Sophia Dengo, CCTV, Abuja, Nigeria.
Now, despite it being thousands of miles away, should repeat that, thousands of miles away from the center of the worst such outbreak on record and having no cases of its own, Ebola is still taking its toll on Zimbabwe's tourism sector. What little activity is left is coming from a rather unlikely source, as Farai Makutuya now reports.
Health officials here stand ready to deal with Ebola. Fortunately, there haven't been any cases yet, but that hasn't been enough to spare the country from the contagion. Players in the sector, who had been trying to win back tourists after over a decade of bad international press, were dealt another blow.
As we was just starting to sort of dig ourselves out of the hole, we kind of got a bit of a setback with Ebola. I mean, us personally with our business had, a number of big cancellations in September, which was when, news headlines were pushing the Ebola issue.
Back in October, Zimbabwe Tourism Authority estimated the losses at $6 million. It's probably much higher now, as recent statistics show as much as 40% of international bookings have been cancelled. Luke Brown says even though the virus has been contained and the coverage is quietened, the volume of business is not back to where it was the same time last year. But the sector has weathered worse storms before and could get a lift out of the current crisis from the local market.
Well, everyone is getting into the festive mood, which is in full swing here now. And the hospitality industry could be one of the beneficiaries.
The phones are ringing almost non-stop. We're getting, a number of inquiries every day from people who've obviously received their end-of-year bonuses and or end-of-year salaries, and they're now looking to get away with the family, which is great. Interesting to note from our perspective that a lot of those inquiries are for Kariba and for the Eastern Highlands, areas which have been suffering from a lack of tourism.
The locally inspired windfall, proving that every dark cloud does indeed have a silver lining. Farai Makutuya, CCTV, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Silver linings indeed. Let's head over to Uganda. Police over there say they do continue to face several challenges in dealing with cybercrime. Official statistics show that electronic fraud cost that East African economy $500,000 in losses between August and November this year. Isabel Nakiria has more.
Police in Uganda say more than 700 people were victims of either email hacking or electronic money transfer fraud between August and November. Criminals are setting up identical websites to genuine ones, which are being used to illegally transfer money electronically. Security agents worry that thousands of dollars are being wired out of the country to be used in forming terrorism rings.
The easy with it is to open a website. The easy with it you can set up an account, and you may not be noticed because not many governments have gone into the area of cyber defense. So people set up sites which are genuine sites, but they have what we call back ends, which can permit people to transfer money from one country to another, especially for the facilitation of acts like terrorism.
Uganda registers about 60 cybercrime-related cases every year, but many cases go unnoticed.
You find these are highly trained people with masters. Some have trained in different countries. They are highly educated. And so it's unfortunate, but this is white-collar crime, and someone to commit this, they must be well-trained and equipped. And that's why also it's equal that the law enforcement officers are trained and actually equipped to deal with this type of crime.
Cybersecurity experts say the government is not doing enough to track down these criminals.
Government only comes in when they've been informed that something's going wrong somewhere, maybe by the bank or any other organization. There is no active monitoring of transactions that are moving into and out of the country, for example. They usually depend on the banks, and because banks have systems where an alarm is raised whenever there's something, a transaction that takes place that exceeds some threshold, yeah.
Experts say unless Uganda's government puts in place effective monitoring mechanisms, it will not be able to crack down on cybersecurity activities. Despite the challenges in dealing with cybercrime, the police say they are building the capacity to fight the problem, with a specialist cybercrime forensic lab being built. By 2016, Isabel Nakiria, CCTV, Kampala.
Let's make a quick run through the markets here for you. It seems the Nigerian Stock Exchange is on quite the recovery streak. About a week ago, it was essentially down by about 18% year to date. Given the gains that we've seen in the last 2 days, it was up about 4% or so yesterday, 5% today. Those losses have been pared down to just 10% so far in the year to date. Odds are we might actually see quite a bit of recovery continue next week. Coming up next, we'll be looking at the oil leak that stands in the way of plans to expand the port of Djibouti. And just how green is your Christmas tree? One entrepreneur in South Africa is supplying the season's emblem with a very light carbon footprint.
Effects of the austerity measures are evident and were expected. Egyptians, however, seem to be patient about it. But El-Sisi told government he wants to control the prices promptly before people's patience runs out.
Welcome back to the program. You're still watching Global Business Africa. Let's take you to Djibouti. Nearly 7,000 tons of oil and gasoline was spilled into the port in that country some 20 years ago. Now, that leak came from oil depots which at the time were owned by Mobil, Shell and Total. And the effects of that environmental disaster are still being felt today. As Girum Chala reports, Djibouti's government is waging a legal battle with the companies over the spill.
An area of 382,000 square meters of land, which is almost the entire area of the port itself, is now under serious jeopardy. Everywhere you dig, the oil oozes out, preventing any expansion activities from being undertaken. And this problem has been here for more than 20 years.
Total surface of the port plus all the three companies' depots are polluted, underground pollution. Everywhere on this port, if you make a big hole, you are finding this fuel.
As you see, the oil is there, and for the environmental side, it is very important for us to find a way, because for the future, it will be very, very bad in terms of sea pollution, in terms of port pollution. And it is very important for us to find a way, because this is already in the court.
This underground oil contamination was caused by the ex-Mobil and ex-Shell companies, which are later bought by Total and Oil Libya. The companies had oil depots at the port, which reports say were recklessly left to cause the current damage. The government of Djibouti now says it needs 150 million euros in compensation to clean the port, and the companies have refused to pay the amount.
Africa should claim, should speak and speak louder against this attitude, imperialist attitude, and should tell Europe they are very keen to try African head of states to International Criminal Court. But when there are their own companies doing this kind of crime, they shut down. So this attitude is unacceptable for Africa.
Pushed by the seriousness of the pollution here, Djibouti is now obliged to relocate this port to another place. That simply means extra cost for the smallest country in the Eastern Africa region. The oil contamination is now beyond the dry land. A few kilometers of the Red Sea right next to the port is contaminated as well. 6,000 to 7,000 tons of oil leaked underground. Observers say that the issue is more of a regional matter than of an individual state. The government now says it will take the issue to the international court.
What they have committed is a crime. We will continue to claim, according to the process, to Djibouti Commercial Code, we will continue to claim in front of Djibouti court because it's jurisdiction of Djibouti court. And then once the Djibouti court will decide on the claim we will introduce against the mother company overseas.
The port of Djibouti and its environs need immediate environmental protection work, or the long-term effects may not be reversible. Grumjala, CCTV, Djibouti.
Over in South Africa, environmentally conscious consumers can now have a Christmas tree with a very light carbon footprint. Literally. Instead of having a pine or plastic Christmas tree, you can now order one made out of recycled materials, as Travis Andrews reports.
With Christmas nearly upon us and more people going around on that last-minute shopping dash, high up on their priority list has got to be their Christmas tree. For some, it's been a long and proud tradition to pick a freshly cut pine tree, which will eventually be adorned with decorations to ring in the festive season. But for some with an eco-conscience and in search of a truly African Christmas, is a tree that's become increasingly popular with those in search of diverging from the norms of tradition.
The baobab tree is a very popular African tree found in many parts of Africa, and it's become emblematic. It's become an icon, a symbol of South Africa and Africa, and it serves perfectly as a substitute for your traditional Christmas tree, which normally a fir tree would grow in Europe and would be covered in snow. Our baobab trees are bright and different, and they look like their roots are coming out of the top of them.
The baobab Christmas tree is the brainchild of social entrepreneur Claudette Davis, who runs the African Home Craft Center, who along with a skilled team of mostly Zimbabwean Y artists are managing to tap into the festive spend of many. Ranging from $200 to $500 for a handmade baobab tree means it could suit all pockets. Another big reason why it's become so popular with a discerning festive shopper.
We find it's a very popular item, and people always, every year, we get a great call for baobab trees. Well, the one behind me is quite a special one, which we've created that can be, in fact, disassembled and packed into very small areas so that it can be sent all over the world.
The tree is meant to be in the true sense of the word green, so all the materials used are meant to strike a chord with those with an environmental and social conscience.
We make Christmas trees and baobab trees out of recycled stuff. When we doing Christmas trees, we first do the wireframe, then cut the stripes, the cane into stripes, then do the plastering with the canes.
This angel, I use recycled fabric, and we buy wings and we put beads also on them.
For now, all that's left for these baobab Christmas tree are the final touches and a welcoming home, so they could bring a new meaning to the word, a very Merry Christmas. It's becoming an increasingly hard decision to make, embracing the long traditions of the trusty pine or harnessing the cultural roots of the baobab. It's something that will surely be on the minds of many festive shoppers. Representative CCTV, Cape Town.
All right then, on to commodities now. We do know, of course, gold essentially being dragged lower by oil prices, and of course as an inflation hedge, it's not working out that well for those who had bet on it. But with regard to crude oil, here's one reason why those prices are down again. US inventory is apparently much higher than anyone expected. EIA data indicating that inventories over there are up by 7.3 million barrels, essentially feeding into the general narrative about there being a glut in supply and demand not exactly being able to absorb everything that's coming to market. Up next, we're introducing you to a programmer who found her sweet spot in baking cookies. All that and more is coming up next.
BizAsia. Asia means business.
Welcome back to the program. You're watching Global Business Africa. A former computer programmer is hoping to become Kenya's next celebrity chef. Meet Catherine Kinyua. She started her own catering company about a year ago, making signature coffee and bottling honey. After several challenges with her small enterprise, however, she's now breaking even as orders for her delectable Christmas cookies are now streaming in.
It was 2008. I just finished my MBA. And I had such a hard time getting a job. It was so difficult. And I said, look, you have all this experience. You've always dreamt of doing something on your own. And fate had me here back home. And I was like, well, the idea just, but I got distracted along the way. And I started doing other businesses. And those businesses failed, actually. And I came back to Lear & Gibson. And Lear & Gibson were actually my grandparents, and they were coffee farmers, entrepreneurs. So I think it runs in the family, and my mom as well, and my dad owns his own consultancy. My mom, she's an inspiration to us. She educated us, clothed us with her juice business. So I grew up making juice. I started this on a serious, in November of last year, actually. It's just been a year. So the coffee and then the honey, my parents had hives back on Kiambu Road. I was like, well, in the market with the honey, there's a big problem. You don't know whether it's genuine, you don't know if it's been tampered with. And I was like, we have this honey and it's extra. Why don't I just start selling to a few friends? And that's how it started. It's not easy, I have to tell you, it's not easy. I started out with, I went to my Gmail contact list. I put it all together. I put a MailChimp account. I sent the first email out. I think I got no response. Nobody responded, and I thought, okay. And I sent again, and started getting a few more inquiries. I started doing walk-ups into businesses, coffee shops, the gym. And people love them. I think because I use, as I said, I use 100% butter. I use good products. I don't cheat. I hope I don't start cheating as I grow. But I hope that people recognize when they see the brand that this is, you know, what it stands for. It's good quality, it's made with care and passion, and yeah, it takes time. I mean, I woke up at 5 this morning and to deliver, to make cookies. As you can see, I'm currently working from my home, my kitchen, a small space. And then I have a small oven, you know, just getting the orders right. And then, I mean, I have to wear many different hats. I have to be the marketer, I have to be the salesperson, I have to be everything, you know, sometimes the delivery guy. So you have to really believe in what you're doing, and it's almost like a religion, actually. It's what I told my mom.
A quick run through the currencies here for you. The Naira back at around 180 to the dollar. That, of course, is the end result of this vice grip, this bear hug that the Central Bank of Nigeria has essentially imposed on the trading market for the currencies. Getting a bit of support also from end year shopping as well, because, well, Christmas obviously is tomorrow. But how long exactly it can remain at these levels, we'll have to wait and see. But that's it for this edition of the program. We do like your thoughts on what we're doing around here. We'll certainly be looking at these two stories for you tomorrow. Ugandans and the frustration of travellers as fares fail to reflect the falling price of crude oil. That, of course, is something we're working on for tomorrow's program. We'll also introduce you to South Africa's youngest social entrepreneur. Apparently she has quite the heart for rhinos. All that and more will be coming your way in tomorrow's program. Send your feedback over to us at globalbusinessafrica@cctv.com. And of course, whenever we're off the air, Facebook and Twitter are your ports of call. Whatever you do in the next 24 hours, happy holidays.